So my mum, when I was a little girl, worked as a nursing aide. She did come to the United Kingdom with aspirations to become a nurse, but had us. So she fulfilled her desire by becoming a nursing assistant, and she did that when I was quite young. And then later on in her career, she actually spent some time working at Luton Dunstable Hospital. What's important to me is that it's an amazing profession. It's a real opportunity to serve others and care for the nation. And it's been
Mm.
important to me for over 3 decades.
What was it like growing up? Times were different back then, weren't
It was absolutely very different. I was born, my parents met in London because they'd both migrated here, as you've just pointed out, from the West Indies. My dad came from Jamaica, my mum from Barbados. We were actually brought up in Aylesbury, as I said, when I was little, then moved down to Luton in Bedfordshire. It was very different for us. There weren't many people from the Caribbean where I was brought up, and my parents had to work, they worked very hard to bring us up, the two of them on their own, brought up us four together, and but we had a lovely upbringing.
they? Just for anyone that doesn't realise, Windrush Day, why is this day so
Mm.
significant and what does it mean to you, Karen?
Yeah, it's a really significant day, and I'm really glad that we have made it a national day and
Mm.
celebrate it because the contribution of that generation is so huge. And if you look at as you just pointed out, they were invited here. A whole generation of people migrated here. My parents actually had British passports and travelled to the United Kingdom and contributed to setting up of what we know some of our fundamental services. My dad worked for London Transport when he first came here, and as I said, my mum worked for the National Health Service. And having worked for the health service a long time, when you really look back at the history of the NHS, it was built off the foundations of that generation and
Mm.
many other industries. So really important that we celebrate this today
Yeah, and
or tomorrow. Sorry.
yeah, no, that's fine. It's important that more needs to be done to recognise the contributions the Windrush generation made, don't they? I mean, you're as you say, your parents, was it 50s, 60s?
Yeah.
More needs to be done to recognise all that.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna way forward. If I think about it, in the last sort of 5 years, we weren't celebrating 5, 6 years. We weren't really talking about it as we are now.
No,
So I
no.
think this is a really great start. But you are right, building on that foundation and understanding actually the contribution that individuals have made, and that actually they continue to make generations. I'm a direct descendant of the Windrush generation, so we continue to contribute to society. And I think if you think about everything in the music and the culture, the food, it's a
Mm.
huge, huge influence.
No, it's really interesting what you just said there about it's come a long way, in recent years because I'm 52 in a month's time, and up
Happy
until the
birthday.
no thanks very much, but up until recently I wasn't aware, and I consider myself somebody that kind of knows stuff
Mm.
about everything, and I wasn't aware of any of this until the stories started coming through, and then watching some of the documentaries has been enlightening and fascinating and in some situations a bit embarrassing, when you
Mm.
when you look at some of the situations that they were placed in, with the weather more than anything else, and that shock
Yeah.
of coming over and having to deal with that. But yeah, more needs to be done. Listen, what about you? You've received an MBE recently. How do you feel?
Oh, well, I mean, it's quite overwhelming actually. So yes, I did. I received an MBE in the King's Birthday Honours, and it's an incredible honour. I mean, I say I dedicate it to my parents. They came here with dreams and bigger dreams for their children, and so it's a real privilege to have done something that I loved and to be recognised for it. So it's taken a bit of getting used to.
Yeah, I bet it does. And your parents must have had so many experiences when they first came to the UK. Is there anything that actually does? Well, some of the things that we've talked about, obviously the weather was one thing, but is there anything that stands out then? Any bits that stands out for them and for you? That you've talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, we were like the first generation. So we
Mm,
were born in the United Kingdom. And one thing I think I would also say is that we did never felt that we actually quite belonged in that beginning because it
yeah.
was always like, are you going home? Where are you from? where are you
Yeah.
really from? And it was quite confusing when we were growing up, thinking, well, I'm from here, I was born here, and that's all we knew. And I think even like you've just pointed out, as much as I recognised my parents came from a different place, I understood bits of the story, but I didn't understand the magnitude of that
No.
story myself
No.
until some time later. And and I think I'd really admired my parents for the perseverance of, sometimes having doors closed in their face, not actually having the jobs that they wanted, not being able to really do the things that they wanted to do, but they persevered, they worked really hard, they brought us up with real values of work ethic, that we worked really hard to get where we wanted to get to. And that was instilled in us from a really, really young age. And I'm really thankful for my parents for that foundation.